Hey guys, Kyle Cordiana here. This is going to be my tour recap for FLW Tour 2018, stop number 1 on Lake Okeechobee. Never been to Lake Okeechobee before, so I had kind of picked out some areas I wanted to pick. I had some areas in the south I wanted to look at, some areas in the north I wanted to look at. We had a lot of really strong winds leading up to this event, so that played a big role into where I thought maybe there would be cleaner water or where it would even be fishable for the tournament. Lake Okeechobee is just huge, and I knew that, and I've never been there before, but when I got out there on the water on the first day I went south, and I realized just how huge it is, it was overwhelming and intimidating. And I had my dad with me, and we got into an area and found some hydrilla pretty early on, which I knew that was going to be key, finding some of that hydrilla in some of those key areas with clean water and good vegetation, some eelgrass and stuff. And we got bit a little bit in that area, just a few little ones. And when I got home that night, I had to decide whether I wanted to try to expand on what I had learned there or if I wanted to go somewhere totally new. And I just decided it's such a big lake, and I knew there was fish there, and there's got to be big ones everywhere, that I was just going to really try to get dialed in and get really familiar with that area down south. And so that's why I spent all 3 days of my practice down south. Ended up being, I guess, the wrong decision, but looking back on it, I found all these bucks that were really active and feeding, and I knew those females were right behind them. And I literally think that area, if you go back to that area that I fished, and I was catching 20, 30, 40 keepers a day of those bucks, I think you go back to that area within a few days or a week and you catch 30 plus pounds. I mean, in any minute, those big females, I think, would have fired up in that area. And me and Jimmy Houston shared that area, and I think he had the same mindset as I did, that any minute. I saw Jimmy lose a great big one on day 2, and that kind of inspired me to stick around. And it just didn't pan out for me. Just caught a lot of fish, and I never did get a big bite. And if I did get a better bite, I lost it. So anyway, that being said, I think it was a successful tournament for me just because I executed my game plan well, and I caught a lot of fish, and I just was trying to wait out the females, and they outlasted me. I needed more days. So anyway, but what worked for me, I wanted to show you guys, like I always try to do. The main thing I caught most of my fish on was a rattle trap. And so I had 2 different rattle traps I threw. I had a 1/2 ounce and a 3/4 ounce. Both rattle traps I threw were 1-knocker style rattle traps, and I threw them both on a Kistler KLX feeling reel. The smaller rattle trap I threw on this rod. This is the medium heavy 611 feeling reel. The larger trap, I had it on a 7.2 or 711 feeling reel. I was throwing like 15-pound fluorocarbon or less. Kind of light line, but this is the one that I caught a lot of my fish on. I don't even know what color this is, but I'll show it to you. This is one of the 1/2 ounce ones. In fact, I was throwing a red one early on in day 1, and I caught a fish on it pretty early, and then I got hung up. I broke it off, and I reached down and I tried on this different color. I caught one my first cast, so I never took it off, and they chewed it up. But always keep your treble hook baits in a bait sack by Calcos. But this bait here was, God, I got a ton of bites on this thing, and I never did catch the big ones that I needed. So that was kind of frustrating, but it kept it interesting getting bites the whole day. I was throwing this on an Apex Elite. This is a 6.5 to 1 ardent reel. That's what I always throw them on. The other thing that I found worked pretty good was like a Texas rig soft plastic. I threw a Senko quite a bit in this. It's really hard to beat anything as a Senko. That kind of stickworm style bait. And then the old speed worm actually was something else that I threw quite a bit. But this was something else I kind of coupled when I wanted to slow down on some of those reed heads and cattails and stuff. I could get a few bites on that. I had a really light weight. I had a really light pegs, 3/16 ounce weight on that, tungsten. I had a 4/0 wide gap, a light wire hook. 15, now this is 17-pound fluorocarbon. This is a helium 3 7.1 medium heavy extra fast tip, and again, another ardent Apex Elite. And then I found some fish punching, which I really love doing that, and I thought I could get some big bites doing that, but it didn't work out. Punching, I was throwing a helium 3. This is a 711. This is a bad boy. This is called the Mad. This is a heavy with a moderate tip. I had 70-pound braid on this dude. I had a 1.5 ounce tungsten on this. This is a Opticast tungsten. You go there, it's great tungsten and it's cheap. It's one of the cheapest places you can get it. Had it on a 4/0 flipping hook. This is a Gene LaRue hammer craw. This is in the color Minnesota Flash. It's got a little bit of a chartreuse glimmer to it. The fish seem to really like that. This is a new Ardent reel. This is the new Ardent C-Force. It's a 7-to-1 gear ratio. Man, it has a really strong drag. It was really good for flipping. It handled heavy cover well. It really winched in those fish out of that vegetation. I really liked that. But again, day one I had like 9 pounds. Day two I had like 9 pounds. I just never did get any big bites. Finished 135th out of 188 guys. Got my butt whooped, and it's not how I wanted to start the season. It feels a lot like repeating last year. And then our very next event, I go down to Rayburn for a Costa, and then our very next event's right back in Florida again. So hopefully one of these times Florida will treat me well. I got some new things coming down the pipe though from some of my sponsors I'm really excited about. Kistler Rods is coming out with a new Helium 3. Trey Kistler's doing it again. He's innovating some new awesome blanks. And so he's come out with a new and better one, partnered up with Gary Loomis again. New Helium 3 is coming out, and a brand new Z-Bone. So you guys look forward to that. That's going to be an awesome rod to get. It's going to be a must-have to have in everybody's boat or on your deck. New partnership this year is Bulk Beef Jerky. Bulk, B-U-L-K. It stands for Building Up Lines with Kindness. They are making some delicious beef jerky, guys. And my wife and I, we just got a whole bunch of samples in. My wife and I have been inside chewing on them. And they got a new one. I don't want to say it's new to them, but it's made out of brisket. It's made by a different part of the cow than most beef jerky's made. And it's like so moist and delicious, right? And so this one's a teriyaki brisket. And I've got a sweet and spicy brisket. That's the one my wife and I really like. But these are just samples, guys. And I got hundreds and hundreds of these samples. And if you come find me, I'll give them to you. At weigh-ins, I'm going to be throwing them out. And so I'm going to be giving out free samples of jerky the whole season. And this stuff's just delicious. They've got, here's like a 4-pepper beef jerky. See what's real cool about that? It says no MSGs and no nitrates added. So this stuff's like healthy for you as opposed to some of the other crap that's on the shelves, you know, that has a lot of processed stuff and preservatives. This stuff's actually better for you than most beef jerky products that you can go out there and buy. They just have a cool motto, you know, building up lines with kindness. That's a cool motto. Who can't get behind that? And so I know Bulk likes to do a lot of giving back, you know, with the profits that they do. So that's something new this year for me I'm excited about. The other thing is Cow Coast. So Cow Coast, here it is. This is the new Clip and Cold 2.0, right out of the package. So we worked hard on the original Clip and Cold, and we've taken steps to make this a better product, right? So the first product was great. I used it all year last year, but you're not doing yourself justice if you don't think you can't make something a little bit better, and that's what Dave at Cow Coast worked on. And so what we've done here is we now have 7. You're going to have 7 different floats in your 2.0 Clip and Coals. The new Clip and Coals are going to have a longer tether. This tether from the float to here is 3 inches longer than it was before, so it's longer than your standard live well depth. So when those fish are swimming around, they don't have to pull this float, you know, down under the water. It's floating, and they got plenty to swim around to get to the bottom of the live well, so they're not actually getting, you know, buoyancy from the float. Here's the big deal, guys. The last one had a real big bulky head, and it just ultimately, the fish it was a little bit uncomfortable in the fish's mouth, and they tend to try to jump and throw it. So now we have got this down to where this little diameter, just this direction of my finger, you can see that white, it's really thin. The old one, I could get it and show you the difference. I probably should, but it's really thin here, so when the fish shuts its mouth, it has less of a gap in its mouth. It feels a lot more comfortable in the fish's mouth. This is shorter. It's going to have a tighter vice grip on that. It's a new mechanism right here above my finger. You can see where this really clamps down. So sometimes guys weren't clamping this all the way down. When they cinch it down, they'd only get about like that, and they think that was good enough, and the fish was able to get out of that and shake that off, and they weren't clamping it all the way down. So now this new system here helps ensure that you get it all the way clamped down, so that fish will never be able to shake that off. So that's the new Clip and Cold 2.0s. Really looking forward to that. Dave did a real good job improving these. And so that's my recap. Next stop, I'll go to the Lake Rayburn for the Southwest Division for the Costa. And then I leave straight from there, no sleep. I'll drive all night long to get to the Harris Chain. So that's my recap for stop number 1. Hope it helps. And we'll see you guys at the next go around.